I guess it finally started. All right, I'm not used to doing this. Chad normally does it, but here for a little Teitel-ology. I guess, John, my first question is, like, doing the kind of thing that you do, we love it because there's 351 college basketball teams, and you're making 280 of them mad by not putting them in your field. And then of the 68 you do take, 50 of them probably think you have them seated wrong. So we appreciate you taking all that heat for us.
Bring it. Happy to help.
Yeah. But anyway, just starting here, and you've been updating it every day as things play out in the conference tournament. Let's start with some teams that kind of aren't in it that we like. And just to clarify, your role is different than what the Hoops HD committee does. You're on the Hoops HD committee, but you're trying to accurately guess what the real committee is going to do. Is that right?
That is 100% correct.
Yeah. So I guess, like, I mean, I know you talk to some of them and all that, but two people can look at the exact same data and end up in different places. Like, what are some of your methods to not evaluate the data yourself, but evaluate how someone else is going to evaluate the data?
It is a little tricky. That's a good point. So I'm a big believer in patterns and trends, in that if a one seed had this kind of profile in 2015 and a team in 2016 has a very similar profile, all other things being equal, which of course they never are, but that team will probably be a one seed again this year, et cetera, for the different seed levels. The same common metrics that everyone uses in terms of RPI and wins and losses and conference strength of schedule and all that stuff. I don't know if there's any one secret sauce or anything to my method. It's just kind of compare and contrast. And Chad had a good one for me last night. He was asking me about St. Joe's versus Cincinnati, and frankly, I did a poor job of explaining it, although it seems like the way the games bore out today that I'm still justified in putting St. Joe's a little ahead of the Bearcats.
Right. So some teams that I personally like, and again, I don't evaluate teams the way you do. I evaluate them the way I like them. But some of the teams that I like that are not inside your bubble or even in your field are Monmouth, and another one being Hofstra. This is different because I think Monmouth's paper is better, especially if you think the committee is going to value wins on the road and out-of-conference schedule, which it's my understanding that there's individuals on this committee that will. But I think Hofstra's team is better, even though Monmouth's paper is better. What is missing from them, and what is it that you think – why is it you think the committee will not select them?
So let's go alphabetically. Hofstra, I'm just not seeing them on anybody else's bracket, which is why, amongst other reasons, they're not on mine. I'm not seeing any major signature win, and I'm not seeing not that the MAC where Monmouth plays is amazing, but I just think if you're going to be a at-large team from a normally one big conference, you really have to like take it up not just one notch, but a few, and that's where we get to Monmouth. They beat Notre Dame and USC and Iona. Like, those three teams are making the tourney. I don't have Hofstra's schedule in front of me, but I would dare say that Monmouth is better. And Hofstra is not even close to my bubble. Monmouth is right on it. Unfortunately, with all the upsets in the conference tournaments over the past week, with so many one seeds going down and other seeds like Iona coming up to steal a bid from a team like Monmouth in that conference, I think it's going to be tough for them. Not impossible. And we'll see how the next 48 hours plays out, but it's going to be an uphill battle, I fear.
Yeah, something else, and we'll get off the under the radar stuff here in a minute, but one of the complaints you hear, or the situations from the UABs, the Hawaiis, the Stony Brooks, like the better teams in the weaker leagues, is that they don't have the ability to build their profile because their conference doesn't provide them the opportunities. And then out of conference, they claim they can't get games. My question to you is, you never see these teams schedule each other, and St. Mary's in particular, it's hard to feel sorry for them about how no one will play them and no one wants to go on the road to play them when you look at their schedule and see they didn't play anybody on the road themselves. Would these teams benefit from playing each other, and would it allow some of them to get the profiles they need to get inside the bubble if they did play each other?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, just looking at some of the picks that look like they're going to make it. Northern Iowa is in. They played and beat Stephen F. Austin, who is obviously a mid-major, and if they don't win their conference, they're not getting in, but a solid, good team. Chattanooga beat Dayton, who is a mid-major, but on the high level, who's not a protected seed, but like I think they're a lock. Hawaii played and beat Northern Iowa. I mean, some of these teams are scheduling each other, but obviously the more the merrier. And I mean, the one that stands out to me is Northern Iowa in terms of non-conference. Obviously, being in Missouri Valley, they get to play Wichita State several times. They beat them twice this year, which is two great wins. But due to geography, they got to play Iowa State and upset them. And due to Marcus Page being from Iowa, they got to play the Tar Heels and beat them, although Page was hurt. I mean, those are premium non-conference wins. And in the case of Wichita State conference wins, they're the outlier and the exception, but it can happen.
Yeah. Moving up there, like a lot of these teams are still playing Temple. We just saw a great game between Cincinnati and UConn. How damaging was that, and does it knock them out? I mean, a lot of people were saying Cincinnati was right on the bubble, but you have them way inside. You actually have them on the 9 line, which indicates they would be in on the initial ballot, the initial 36. What is it that you're seeing? I guess you can't speak for what other people don't like about them, but what do you like about them?
So that's going to be a very interesting proposition because they're both from the same conference, obviously the American. They have the amazing quadruple overtime game with the even more amazing 70-footer to beat the third overtime buzzer thanks to Jalen Adams. I think both of them are neck and neck in terms of they both have some good wins against GW actually. Cincinnati's beaten GW and VCU. UConn's beaten Michigan and Texas, like solid wins. Obviously, the power conference teams will probably bump UConn above Cincinnati, although that's the thing, like head-to-head, I don't know how much it counts in the minds of the committee, but Cincinnati was 2-0 against UConn this year. And if UConn is now a lock, which I don't think they are, but solidly in the bubble, it may be a lock in some people's minds. Since he beat them twice, that should count for something, right?
Yeah. I agree. And I think that they're better than their paper because if you look at some of their losses, you're talking close losses to tournament teams. You know, Butler, they lost at the buzzer. Iowa State at the buzzer. And I realize that you can't come to the table with a bunch of close losses, but it does indicate that they're capable of playing like a tournament team. I think they looked like a tournament team most of the year, and I could see them getting in. Kind of another general question, and this is in regards to Texas Tech, Oregon State, USC, a lot of these teams that are not only in but wearing white. I've always said college basketball is unique. It's so hard to win on the road because the home team has two huge advantages over you. They have the atmosphere, which is very supportive of them and very suffocating towards you, and they have the familiarity of the venue. And I personally, when I evaluate teams, I'm not as quick to give a whole lot of credit for beating teams at home, even if those are really good teams or tournament teams. And I almost think that it's more difficult to beat an NIT team in a true road game than it is to beat a lot of top 50 teams in home games yet. And you are guessing the committee. I don't know how you personally feel, but Oregon State, USC, the home court heroes seem to be safely in your bracket. Colorado, another one. Do you not think the committee weighs that very much?
They have to weigh a little bit. If you win everything at home and lose everything on the road, then you're not going to make it. Pause. Unless you're Holy Cross, who decided not to win on the road until the conference tournament, of course. I want to give Texas Tech a shout out because if you look at their non-conference schedule, they played and beat Hawaii and South Dakota State and Arkansas Little Rock. All three of them very well might make the tourney. So kudos to Tubby for making that schedule. A lot of other things that those teams have in common around the 8 line are the signature wins. My 8 seeds are Texas Tech, Providence, USC, and Oregon State. Texas Tech beat Oklahoma. Providence beat Villanova. Those are signature wins over very likely number 1 seeds. As far as the 2 Pac-12 teams, they kind of beat up on everyone in conference in terms of they both beat Colorado, and they both, I believe, beat each other. And USC upset my Arizona Wildcats. Oregon State beat everyone in the Pac-12 except for Arizona. They also played some nice out-of-conference games against the MAC. USC beat Monmouth. Oregon State beat Iona. And so when you look at the whole body of work, even if they are leaning towards home court heroes, I think there's enough meat on the bone and on the resume that even if they're not going to make it in the top 8, I feel pretty solid about all 4 of those 8 seeds to be near locks for the tourney.
Yeah. And I think that they're near locks too. And then let's getting into the protected seeds. Is there anybody at this point that could literally just oversleep and miss the bus to their remaining games and still get locked into the 1 line?
From what I've seen in terms of my own bracket and my analysis, as well as the brackets of many, many other people on the internet, I think Kansas and Villanova are pretty much locked in as 1 seeds. If something happens with their conference and Oklahoma destroys Kansas by 30 in the title game, or Xavier destroys Villanova by 35 in the title game. Anything's possible, but I think the Wildcats and Jayhawks are locked in. As far as the other two that I don't think are locked in, Virginia seems to be a strong third number one seed in most every bracket. So even if they get upset tonight at the Verizon Center, a few subway stops away from me, I think they're going to be okay. Although if North Carolina, as an ACC team, can end up winning that tourney by beating the Irish and Virginia back-to-back, or the Irish and Miami, that certainly gives them a number one seed worthy resume. And then the other one, I think it's going to be Michigan State. Everybody seems to be having Oklahoma and Kansas both as number one seeds. I love the Spartans. I love Izzo and March. I love Denzel Valentine's Player of the Year. And I think that they're not going to get a chance to beat Indiana thanks to Michigan, but the path is clear for them. Maryland is their main stumbling block. So I think the Spartans might end up snagging that fourth number one.
Yeah. And then down, like in looking at the 2 line, the 3 line, I mean, Miami sort of tied for first year. How important, how much are conference standings ways? And I'm looking kind of here at Indiana. I know that they were the outright Big Ten first place team, but the conference schedule was so imbalanced that they didn't end up playing most of the better teams twice. And the ones that they did play, they got a lot of them at home. Yet, I mean, does the committee factor that in? I guess you don't seem to think. I mean, you have them way up there.
Yeah, I mean, 3 is very high, and I think the stat I saw today is that no team that's ever lost their opening conference tourney game has ever won the NCAA tourney. So, sneak preview of my bracket: do not pick Indiana to win it all. That being said, the Hoosiers' non-conference schedule is pretty freaking weak. According to what I see, Creighton and Austin P, I don't think that's going to get it done. Excuse me, Notre Dame as well. That is a big one, obviously. That is the signature non-conference. But Miami played Utah, beat them, played Butler, beat them. I think Miami has a solid 3-line resume. I could see Indiana slipping, especially if Purdue or Maryland or Kentucky, a lot of my 4 seeds who are alive, keep going up and up the chain.
Yeah. And I guess just kind of wrapping it up here, you're guessing the committee. Is there anything that you're guessing the committee will do that you think is wrong? Like you think this team should be a 2, but in reality they're going to get a 5 or something like that. I mean, if you were picking it, what are some of the things you'd have differently?
So I don't see any glaring omissions or discrepancies. I mean, I think the committee tries to follow the eye test, but also the paper. So I think it's become so refined over the years that maybe 10 years ago, pre-Lenardi and me and everyone else on the internet, there's hundreds of brackets on the internet from experts to amateurs like myself. And there's so much data out there. And with the proliferation of the internet, which allows you to, number one, crunch a bunch of stats that are floating out there, and number 2, watch on your laptop 24/7 from anywhere in the world all these games, I think the committee has a very good idea of teams, both eye test and paper. So I don't see any glaring omissions. There's always going to be somebody left out who should have been in. Last year there was the whole UCLA thing. And there's always some 2 seed who thinks they're a 1 seed. But, if you're a 2 seed and you win a couple of games, you'll get a chance to go against the 1 seed. And if you beat them, then kudos to you. And if you lost, then it doesn't matter what your seed would have been anyway.
Right. And I mean, I love this stuff because I think it helps the popularity of the game. I think for a lot of general casual fans, you can pull up a bracket and get a general idea of how good the teams are and why the games during the regular season are important that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And you're right, the real committee, they have DirecTV put into their house. They have a terabyte of DVR space. They get passwords to every streaming conference site and every site out there. They get passwords to all the rating sites. Ken Palm, I'm blanking here. Massey, Sagarin. I know some of those are free, but they get a lot of information. And kind of like what we do, there's daily, there's weekly meetings. Like we call it the Hoops HD report. It's not exactly structured the way the committee meets because that would just be too boring. But they are extremely well informed. So yeah. But anyway, and I guess if anything, if there's any plate tectonic type shifting, I guess we'll be on again. But thanks a lot, John.
Thank you.
All right.